All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Lasting Learning Podcast. This week, we have an absolutely incredible guest joining us. Before I even start talking to her, I just got to say, she is probably the most humble guest I have ever had on this show, because she doesn't want me to believe that she is amazing, but I'm here to tell you she is incredible. We've got a woman joining us. Started off as a girl from Buffalo, moved herself down south. She's a former AP on the run. Now she's the Southernish principal. She is a middle school principal that is absolutely killing it, doing some amazing things. Today, we have the one, the only Dr. Kyle Nix joining us. Kyle, thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy day to be here with all of us.
Thank you for having me, and you've got me blushing because you're so nice about me. So thank you.
Well, it's all true. And if people knew what was happening prior to us hitting record, like literally, you came running in, averting crisis after crisis, dealing with all of the things, and yet you're just sitting here cool, calm, collected, and smiling like nothing's going on. This is just another day in my life, and you're managing through it. So it's so awesome.
Life.
There you go. For sure. Kyle, there might be some people out there that don't know anything about you other than they heard me say that you're a principal, that you started in Buffalo, that you're now down south, all of those things. Can you just take us on that journey real quick before we dive into who you are today?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. I'm from Hamburg, if you're familiar with the area. And I, went to all of my schooling there, K-12. I went to college in Geneseo, New York, which is between Buffalo and Rochester. When I graduated from high school, like the day after I graduated, my parents moved to Nashville, Tennessee. So I stayed up there for college while they were down here in the South. And so I got my degree there and decided to move south closer to them. And that meant moving to Georgia. So I got my master's at the University of Georgia, which took me from like 14 hours away from them to 6. So that was a lot better. And I taught in Georgia for 4 years at a middle school in 6th and 7th grade. And I met my husband there. And then we just had to decide, where we wanted to put our roots down. And so we moved to Nashville. So I've been here for, I guess it's like 12 years at this point, I think. And I know I've been in the South for 17 years. So I think it's 12 here. Yeah, 5 plus, 12. And so, I taught 11 years, or I was at a high school for 11 years here, same school. And I just came to this middle school to be principal. So it's been quite the journey.
That's awesome. Awesome. And we're going to dive into the educational experience and going from high school to middle school, or actually middle school to high school, back to middle school, all of that in a second. But I want to dive into some of this other stuff you talked about. Let's first talk about Buffalo and the fact that your parents waited until the day after you graduated to leave. I don't know if that's just amazing parenting, or if you need to be extremely bitter that they were willing to move to Nashville and they waited until you finished high school to say, okay, we're out of here now. Like, do you look at them and say, we could have left sooner? Why'd you make me stay? Or are you grateful that they let you stay?
So, okay, let me explain the situation.
I've been to Buffalo. I'm just saying it's pretty 2 months out of the year. But
it is actually, it's become like this awesome city since I've left. Maybe it was me. But no, so my mom's job moved down here to Nashville, and she found out, I guess it was like December or January that she found out. And my dad moved down here, and he lived here while we lived in Buffalo. And my parents wanted us to stay up there just to finish out the year. So I'm the oldest. My brother and sister are 2 and 5 years younger than me. So that, we all had to finish school, and then they moved down here. And I'll be honest, at the time my parents told me I had to go to a state school. So I was angry because I couldn't, I wanted to go to like some other school outside of Buffalo or outside of New York, and they had said no, and then they were leaving me. And I was like, it's not even a state school anymore. But I didn't want to move to Nashville because my life was there. And at the time, I thought of Nashville as this like country bumpkin town. And I say that, but if you know anything about Buffalo and Hamburg, we're as country as you get pretty much.
But they don't say things like country bumpkin in Buffalo.
But The first time we came down here, my parents lived in Franklin.
Mm.
And if you've been to this area and been to Franklin, it's like so up and coming. There's a ton of stuff there. But when we first came down here, there was nothing. We drove down one of the main streets that has probably every store you can think of now, and there were just street lights. And so that to me was like, oh, we're in the country. I'm good with staying in New York. But then I learned as I was there that this is really the place to be, because I remember distinctly my junior year walking home to where I lived from campus, and there were like 4 feet of snow. And that's normal for where I was from. And my pants were wet, because when you live in a snowy area, your pants get wet and you get these salt lines. And I remember my parents calling me and telling me they were off of school, and it was 40 degrees and sunny in Nashville. And I was like, you're kidding me. It's, it's freezing here and I'm not off of school. And so that was kind of the point where I was like, well, maybe I want to live in the South. So yeah, I wasn't mad at them ever. Really, them moving gave me the opportunity to move here, because I think if they wouldn't have moved, I wouldn't have left there.
So you're a mom now with 2 young kids. Do you ever see yourself moving back north and transplanting your family?
No, definitely
Okay.
not. And not because I don't love the North, because there's so much about Buffalo I do love. And really, we went back a couple years ago. I ran a marathon there, and I kind of got to see the city in a different light as an adult, and it's really transformed. It's amazing. But my husband's from Georgia, and my parents are here. His family is here. I just can't see anything taking me back there.
Hold that thought, because that's coming back. I'm already feeling a theme in this episode just from that answer. I feel like I have this little journey, the story that's going to come out. I could be completely wrong, but now let's take us to Georgia.
Okay.
When you get a job working in a middle school, was it your desire to work in a middle school, or is that just a job you found?
No, that was really just a job I found. I wanted to work in high school because I liked that age group when I had student taught. But I fell in love with middle school. I would say my first year in 6th grade, well, your first year as a teacher in general is terrible, because you don't even know what teaching is. That was a really hard year. And I remember thinking, these kids are too young for me. But my second year, I just loved them. And then I got an opportunity to move into a gifted classroom, a spectrum, or whatever you call it, the higher level kids, and get over that program. And so I took that opportunity in 7th grade, and I loved them. I cried when I told my principal that I was leaving, but my husband and I were at that point where we wanted to consider having kids and setting up roots. So we made that decision. And when we moved to Nashville, I didn't have a job. My husband did. I just happened upon getting a high school job, but I loved middle school when I was there.
It's super interesting, and that wasn't necessarily the answer I thought you were going to give, but it's interesting to me, the path already in these 2 events of your life, moving from Buffalo down south and then finding yourself at a middle school. Neither one was necessarily home, the place that you thought you wanted to be, but now you almost can't imagine being anywhere else, which is super interesting to me. But you did find yourself somewhere else. You found yourself leaving a middle school and working at a high school that truly became this home away from home for you. Made some of your best friends in the world there. Transformed who you were as a person and as a professional there. But then you left again. I'm curious. First of all, I guess talk to me about your time at the high school, both from teacher to administrator, what that was like. Did you feel like you finally made it? That was your calling? That's what you had been trying to do your entire career?
So I don't know. I don't know that I felt like that. My first year at high school, I had loved middle school, so that was hard, a hard transition. It was almost like being a first year teacher again.
Yeah.
And then I started to build some relationships with the kids. And when I first started, I helped with student council, and I helped with soccer. And so I became really involved in the school and just continued with that. And I knew I loved it. So I stayed and kept going. And then I got that itch to get into administration. I'd always wanted to be a superintendent,
Mm.
but where I'm from in Buffalo, it's by town. So the superintendent is over one high school, one middle school, and a handful of elementary schools. So I knew I didn't want to do that here because that it's different here. You know, you're over an entire county's worth of schools here. But I've got that itch to be into administration. And so I was able to be a dean at the school. And when I got that opportunity, I just had this another opportunity to get into an admin program to get my EDS. And so I took it. And it was kind of like things just started falling into place for me. My personal belief is I believe everything happens for a reason. I strongly believe that God had a hand in that. I just felt it, that it was time. So I did it, and I ended up getting an AP job at the school, and I loved it. And you know, I started to get that itch again to do something bigger. And so I followed it. I followed that, and it wasn't easy leaving there. You know, Laverne, where I was, that was my home. Like you said, it was everything to me, and I was everything. You know, I was 100% a part of it. But it was time. You know, I just knew it. It was time.
So this is going to be a weird question. Maybe you can't even answer it right now. But your first year as a middle school principal, granted, it's been in the middle of a pandemic, but I'm curious, what is a harder job, being a high school AP or a middle school principal?
I think in general, not location, you know, high school or middle school, but I think being a principal is harder than being an AP, regardless of location, just because of the extra pressures that are on you. You know, when you're an AP, you've got certain things that you're over, but you don't have all of the weight of the entire school on you. And you know, when I moved into this position, there's so much that's easy for me because of my experience in high school. You know, I have parents all the time that say, how do you go to all of the after school events? Well, the after school events here start at 4:30 and are over at 6. I'm used to at the high school, they start at 6 and are over at 9. So to me, that's super easy to go to everything. But those pressures that are on you, where you've got every employee on you, every decision on you, that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
It's definitely harder.
Yeah, the buck stops with you. And
Exactly.
everybody expects you to either have answers or be willing to listen to their answers all the time. But yet you still have responsibilities outside of work as well. You know, you've got your doctorate in education. So you went to school. It seems like you probably went to school almost your entire career. You're going to school outside of work. You're a mom, you're a wife, you are a runner, you do a ton of other things. How do you find the balance? How do you find the time? I know it's a cliche question,
Yeah.
but it's always a fascinating question. Like, how do you run marathons? You are raising amazing kids. You're killing life, and you're also super successful in your school. It seems like nothing is sacrificing. It's like you're giving your all to all. How is that possible?
Well, it's not possible. There are definitely sacrifices, and you know, Instagram and Twitter and all of that is a highlight reel. So it's showing you the best parts of all of this. I struggle with balance. For me, you know, some days I'm a great mom, some days I'm a great principal. You know, my family comes first as much as it possibly can. But I will say, for me, my school is also my home, and you know, it's my family, and my family is it. And so a lot of what I do, it does incorporate the school. You know, I don't really keep those separate like a lot of people might. So I don't know that there's an easy way to do everything. It's just whatever works in the day, I guess. I don't have any balance. I just go with the flow and figure it out.
Well, and maybe that is the balance right there. It's you got to learn to do the two-step on the teeter-totter sometimes. You got to go back and forth on the surfboard, right? But you said at times you are a great mom, at times you are a great principal. This is like a straight up interview question here, so be ready. What is a great principal? What is a great mom? What does that even look like?
You know, I don't know. I don't know that I would qualify as great at anything. But I think what I strive for when I'm trying to be a great mom is making sure that I'm with my kids through their experiences and supporting them through everything. And being a great principal is the exact same thing. And I think that that's why I try to combine both of those parts of my life together, because what I'm trying to achieve in both and with both is the same. Um, and so, yeah, I don't know that there's one thing that makes being a principal or a mom great, but I really feel like it's the same.
Well,
That
and
makes
see,
sense.
it makes total sense, and I think it's the right answer if there ever was a right answer. Before we went and we started recording, I was telling you how amazing I think you are, and you were downplaying and saying, I am just Kyle. What are you talking about? And this is exactly what I'm talking about, because I think that is what makes you great. You are a great person at being with other people. And that's what I see in your highlight reels, and that's what I see from you as the person is you are amazing at amplifying other people. You do life with others. You live life for others. And that is what principals should be doing. That is what moms should be doing. That's what wives should be doing. That's what dads should be doing. That's what fathers should be doing. That's what all the things should be doing, is amplifying others. And that's why I wanted to have you on here today to amplify you, because I want that message out there. Your home is really everywhere because you're all about life with others. And oh, you fire me up. I love this. This is
Well,
so
thank
good.
you. I mean, when you say it like that, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm about. I'm about working together, community, and that is me in a handshell, a
Well,
nutshell, whatever it
well,
is.
and it goes back to when you talked about your childhood. I mean, this is probably a testament to your parents as well, who said, "We'll do whatever we have to do. We'll make the sacrifices for the kids to make sure that they can be comfortable because our family comes first." And you recognize that, you see that now going back. You strike me as somebody who is loyal. The fact that you've lived in the South for 17 years, but your Instagram handle is the Southern-ish principal. Like you still introduce yourself as the girl from Buffalo. Like you are all about your roots, and you
Yeah.
know that your roots define who you are today. Um, do you see similarities with your own kids and who you were as a kid? Do you see them growing up and becoming versions of you?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I see lots of things in my kids. It's funny because sometimes they'll do something and I'm like, that's exactly like me. And then
Yeah.
sometimes they'll do something that's exactly like my husband. And sometimes they'll do things that I don't know where they got it from. Those are always the worst things, right? They definitely didn't get it from me. No, I'm just kidding. My kids are great. I don't know. They have a different experience than I had. And so I don't think they'll grow up exactly like I did. But I try to instill the same values in them. And I pray that they can be successful with those values. So I don't know that answers your question.
Well, it does. It does. And that's really a transition to the next question I'm going to ask. And I don't want people that might work with you that are listening to this thinking I am equating them to your kids. Not my intent at all. It's just the metaphor I'm using. So Kyle did not say you guys are a bunch of kids. She did not. Okay. So know that. But the last school you were at, when you were at Laverne, it was a school that went through a transformation. It went through some growing pains, and some things and some systems, some people were transformed in that process to become different than they were at the beginning. You're in a new school right now where you are the transplant in. Do you see yourself transforming into them? Do you see them transforming into you? How does, not to say that your staff is your kids, do you see them as smaller versions of you, or how does that dynamic work?
I think we are transforming together.
Okay.
Where I came to, it's a school that it's an amazing school with an amazing set of students, teachers, community. I mean, if I could have handpicked exactly where I'd be in life, it's here. And they definitely had some things that needed to change. And I had a lot of support from the teachers that were here. And I feel like we've worked together towards those changes. I've guided them. My policies and procedures have guided them throughout the process, but they've been so much a part of the process too. I mean, it's again, that defining thing about me, togetherness. We've really done this together. So I don't think they're little me's and I'm not little them. So we're one together. And that's a reason why I love it here, is I just feel like we are one.
So let me go back to your kids. Would you be happy if we were to fast forward? I'm not even going to do the math. How many years? Let's just say a couple of decades into the future. Would you be happy if your kids were just like you are right now? Would that be a success?
You know, I want my kids to be better than me. I want them to learn from me. I want them to learn from my husband. You know, I want them to be better because there's so much I can improve on. So no, I don't want them to be me. I definitely want them to be better versions.
So now let's take it back to your school. What is your vision for the school you're in right now? Do you want them to transform because of you, with you, in spite of you? What do you want your staff to look like in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years?
I want them to transform with me. You know, I want us to do this together. And I want the same thing for the kids too. You know, I want them to really experience, you know, my school with me, and I want to learn from them just as much as I want them to learn from me. So I all in together. For
That's
sure.
awesome. And I hope you take this the right way. As a former middle school principal right here, I wish I were you when I was a middle school principal. I wish I had that same heart. And I'm hoping other leaders that are out there listening to this, or other teachers are hearing this, because it's spot on. It's your truth. You want to be standing side by side and see this take place. And the trap that I fell into when I took on my first principalship is I thought it was my responsibility to change people. I thought it was my responsibility to make people other versions of me. And I worked tirelessly to do so. Whew, when I look back on it now, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, but I hear you saying these truths that I know are your truths. It's what you do. And I can't wait to see what happens in the next 2, 3, 5 years, because I feel like although this is who you are right now, who you are will be different, but it's still going to be amazing. And where your school is, it's amazing now. It's still be amazing, but it's going to be a completely different version of amazing. And I can't wait to see that transformation take place because of how you're doing what you're doing. You are killing it.
Happens.
You're killing it. No,
Well,
you are
and I
going
try
amazing places.
to not, it's not just my school too. I mean, I share a campus with an elementary school, and we've got our high school down the street. And I have a lot of elementary schools that feed into mine, but the main one is next to me. And I try to work with him, the principal there, every day. I mean, we were on the phone like 5 or 6 times today because of our funding situation. But, you know, it's not just my school. My goal is I want the whole community to be one. I don't know that it'll be that, but that I feel like we could be. So that's, you know, everyone together.
Yeah, and you kind of have to have that eternal optimism, right? You have to have that hope and that belief. Otherwise, there's no need for you. Your role as the leader is to guide people to what could be. So you've got to maintain that belief constantly. So love that. So let me ask you, going back to you personally, what goals do you have for yourself? I mean, you've done a lot. You talked about running marathons. Is there another one have you registered for another one yet? Like what is next on Dr. Kalanick's bucket list checklist of success?
Not running. I actually, after the Buffalo Marathon, I stopped running. I mean, intermittent running here and there, but I don't think I want to do another marathon or anything like that. I am a Pelotoner. I Peloton nonstop. So definitely not the running thing, just because I got burned out on it. And that's kind of how I am. Like once I'm over something, I'm over it, move on. So Pelotoning. I don't know. I feel like the way that I've always worked is I kind of wait to see what I feel inside is right for me. Right now, I can't imagine anything other than what I'm doing. I know that I don't want to go to a central office position or a position where I'm not around students. I know that because that's like my heart. I don't know. I'd love to get into writing and write a book, you know, write something that's worth something other than a dissertation that takes forever. It doesn't go anywhere. So I'd love to get into writing at some point, and maybe be a consultant for other teacher or other administrators. I'd love to be a mentor once I finally figure out what I'm doing. I don't know. I think it'll come to me when it's time.
And that seems to be the story of your life, doesn't it? Where it's, I'll follow my heart. Where my heart takes me, I'll make it home, and I will go all in while I can until my heart takes me somewhere else. And it's almost like you have this belief that something amazing is on the other side, but you're not scripting it. You're not planning it all out, because that leads to disappointment if doors close. You will just go through whatever doors open up and make life life. I love that. Oh my gosh. I feel like this is going to be one of those episodes I put on repeat. And when I am out there torturing myself, going for those runs and asking myself, why am I doing this? I'm going to listen to you and feel comfortable stopping and not feeling like I got to do it just because I made a stupid bucket list goal to run so many miles. I'm going to feel free stopping and following my heart and just smiling through it. So,
and get a Peloton, because Peloton.
Get a Peloton.
Anyone listening, get a Peloton.
I'm surprised that you're not sitting on a Peloton right now as we're doing this. I mean, think about that game. Well, you're probably never even in your office, really. You're running around as a middle school principal, so you don't need it there, but that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, so, I usually do it at 4 a.m. Today I did not Peloton. I took today off, but usually at 4 a.m.
Okay. There are people listening right now that are like, okay, you had me until then. They were saying, I wanted to be you until 4 a.m. That's commitment, but it's also, it's commitment because you love it. If you hated doing it, 4 a.m. would not be happening. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. So Kyle, as we try to transition now, there are a lot of people that are hearing all of these things that you're saying, whether it's leading from the heart, finding your passions, identifying where home really is for you, family first, leading with, not in front. Like, so many amazing nuggets just emerged from our conversation today. But I want you to imagine, you said you can see yourself maybe someday writing or consulting. I want you to imagine that you've just written an amazing book, and now your publisher comes to you and says, all right, Kyle, I want you to take everything that you just wrote and tell me what goes on the back cover. Or you're standing on the stage and every single person that just listened to this is listening to you again, yet the whole world listening to you this time, microphone in hand. They're waiting to hear, what is that thing? What's the one thing that you want everybody to walk away from your book, your talk, your conversation, your life with? Kyle, what is your mic drop moment right now? No pressure.
No pressure. I mean, I think, and this has been the theme the whole time. My one thing is always work together. You know, have your crew around you, beside you, and work with them for success. There's no way, in my opinion, that you can be successful on your own. I think that you have to lean on others when you need it and help others grow when they need it, and then you will find true success. So that's going to be my big nugget, or my truth is, you know, you've got to do things together. That's so important to me. You know, I think some people probably laugh at me and they're like, no, you can be successful on your own. You probably can, but I think you're not going to find that true success unless you're surrounded by others.
You'll never find the contentment with success unless you're with others. You might find temporary success alone, but you'll always be chasing the next success. If you do life with somebody else, you can celebrate their joys. They can celebrate yours. Do it together. I love it, Kyle.
And if you're a leader, I mean, when you are a leader, your goal is to lead others. It's not just to be successful. And so I think you can't lead others if you're not surrounded by them and learning from them and, you know, growing with them. So
good. Well, Kyle, if people want to continue to learn with you and grow with you and do life with you, how can they connect with you?
Okay, so on Instagram, I am at the Southernish Principal. And that's kind of like all of the highlight real cool things about me. Kidding. It's fun though. And then on Twitter, I'm at Kyle M. Nix, and that's where I do daily check-ins on there. It's more school-based. That's more for my community, but you'll get a better taste of who I am on a daily basis there because I talk on that one. And then if you want to follow me on Peloton, I'm at Kyle M. Nix there too. And I would love to be Peloton buddies with anyone who wants to follow me.
That's awesome. I got to tell you, out of all the guests I've had, you were the first person to ever drop how they can connect with you on Peloton. So yay for that. Thank you for being that first. I appreciate it.
I mean, you can high five on there. It's so fun. There's nothing like being in the middle of a ride and having a friend high five you. So
that's cool.
Gotta do it.
All right. That might be my next investment. If for no other reason, so that I can connect in a high five with you. Yes. That's awesome. Well, Kyle, you are absolutely incredible. Everything I said at the very beginning of this, you lived up to and then some. You are incredible. You are doing some amazing things to inspire the lives of other people. People that have never heard you before today are inspired and they are changed and they are motivated to go out there and make a difference. So I appreciate you taking time out of your crazy chaos to sit down and just have a conversation with me and to share your message with so many others. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. You are incredible.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.